Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the Collegiate Chess League's Fall 2022 playoffs. This is the second match of the playoffs. We watched Grigory Oparin beat Maxim Iaskolko this morning, and now we have Josiah Sterman from Mizzou against Ivan Key from UC Santa Barbara. That game has actually just started, so let me show you guys what we missed, what's going on. So they're already about 9 moves into the game. We have a Queen's Gambit declined. So Josiah has the white pieces. He is the higher seed. He is the 7th ranked player out of the 16 Division I players. And looks like we have the knights connected here for knight 8700. That is Ivan from Santa Barbara. So the idea of this piece placement is that bishop and queen lined up against h7. The knight is attacking the bishop is attacking the knight. Knight is defending h7. So the knight has defended its fellow knight, and if Josiah gives up the bishop for the knight retakes, and that maintains the defense over h7. Josiah continues, develops his knight, getting ready to castle kingside. Black has already castled kingside, has now put the rook on e8. That allows for a piece to come back. That's actually an interesting move to me. The knight here is defending the pawn as well. So no longer needing the knight to defend the knight. You can take back with the bishop because h7 is defended with the other knight. Knight's also looking to go to g6, which it does right away. That just straight up blocks the diagonal in the first place. So f3, very interesting move here from Josiah, just I guess aiming for e4. But yeah, it looks like black now has an opportunity to win the bishop pair, as knight here covers h4, and you can push for g6 if you want. The problem with that is that g6 then becomes very weak, right? So we're attacking this knight twice. It is only defended twice. So if a pawn moves, the knight is no longer defended twice. And we do see e4. That does block this diagonal, but if black were to then play h6, the bishop has this diagonal to retreat on. So white's got a really nice, strong center here with their pawns. Knight comes up to g4. Eyeing up some of these dark squares, also opening up this diagonal for a potential bishop trade. Hello to Risky Gris, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, these players are playing early, so the default match time is 11 a.m. Pacific, which is in 2 hours from now. These players are playing early because the winner plays against Grigory Oparin, who we just saw win his match, and he had to reschedule early because he is playing in the St. Louis Fall Classic, which also starts at 11 a.m. Pacific. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. We see queen to d2, just getting out of the way of the bishop, it seems, and finding a new diagonal. But these knights are pretty annoying. They cover both of these squares. Maybe white wants to play for knight f4 and retake with the queen instead of the rook. That's just one potential idea. Another might be that we're going to kick out the knight. Another thing is queen here looks at this g5 square, so the queens are contesting that. Ivan contesting with c5. Josiah had this nice strong pawn duo in the center, and so that is contested. Now that pawn is defended by the knight. Josiah could pass. Josiah is using a lot of time, by the way. Ivan is at 9:15 and has the black pieces too, which is kind of interesting. I do want to mention that these two players told me that they actually are pretty familiar with each other. They're both from California. Josiah just graduated from UC Berkeley. Knight Ivan is from UC Santa Barbara. Josiah now is in grad school at Mizzou, so he's joined the Mizzou team under Christian Trilla. very strong team. In fact, one of the strongest in the Collegiate Chess League. They have like 6 players in Division One, which is crazy. Um, Definitely more than any other school by far. So, anyways, Josiah has decided on bishop to c4, just rerouting the bishop, pointing right at the king, as well as opening up the queen to help defend the d pawn. So if c takes d, I'm not sure what Josiah would take back with, either the knight or the queen. So yeah, this also pins f7. It threatens to take on f7. Bishop takes f7 would win in exchange. Rook takes might even be worse. So here I'm expecting perhaps bishop to e6. Definitely Ivan needs some sort of defensive move here, as f7 is currently a threat. So nice move from Josiah. We'll see what Ivan comes up with as a defense. Like I said, bishop e6 is one idea. Maybe one reason to be hesitant about bishop e6 is that it allows for d5, pushing that center pawn with a tempo, and the bishop's going to have to move, right? That, or perhaps you don't move the bishop. You pin the pawn to the queen. But the queen's going to move, and then once again renew the threat of taking the bishop. So once the bishop moves, maybe there's d6 with the discovery. That would be annoying. I actually am not sure if bishop e6 is the best response then, because of this d5 push. So that's actually kind of peculiar. If you're not playing for bishop e6, what else can you do? You can play rook f8. That's a very passive move. That defeats the purpose of putting the rook on e8 in the first place, but it might just be the best move. Another idea would be to put the knight on f6, blocking the f-file, but then just simply e5, and that's pretty annoying. So, yeah, I guess I would play rook f8 here, but doesn't seem right. Doesn't feel good. I just don't know what happens after bishop e6, d5, because then d6 is going to hit, right? So that looks pretty annoying. Hello, SIUE Chess. How are you? Okay, looks like black does none of the above. They're throwing a wrench into my calculation here. C takes d4. C takes d4. And this seemingly is allowing f7 to be captured with the bishop, with check, or with the rook, which I think is actually a little bit stronger. Just, tempo on the queen, right? And threat of discovery. You can take rook f7. Black could say, well, I'm going to take your knight with tempo on your queen. And you're going to say, yeah, well, give me the queen, but with check, my friend, with check. So no time to capture my queen back. But yeah, knight, 8,700. This is Ivan from UC Santa Barbara gambling almost by taking on d4, saying, you know what? I don't want to defend f7. You can have f7. I'm going to take on d4. I'm going to ruin your center pawn structure. I'm going to attack your knight. But Josiah now in the think tank thinking, maybe something doesn't seem right. Yeah, I suspect rook takes f7 is going to be played, and there you have it. So Josiah honestly not spending too much time on that. Ivan spent 2 minutes and 40 seconds on c takes d4. Josiah spent a minute 17, and Ivan's going to have to prove that they made the right choice. So, okay, queen to h4. It's getting spicy. It is getting spicy. The queen here is immune from any rook discoveries, right? That's very important. You're not blundering the queen with check or anything. And at the same time, black has a fork of their own. They're attacking both f2 and h2. How do you defend both? It's not so easy, actually. It's not clear. Also, mind you, your knight's hanging. So, yeah, this is an interesting try from Ivan. Perhaps they anticipated this. All right, what on earth did just happen? So queen here, queen takes d4, queen takes h2, king to f1. And the idea is that the knight's going to block this check because this knight covers this square. So queen check, knight block, and there's no queen takes h1 or anything like that. So yeah, what exactly is going on here? If you guys are seeing the eval bar here, the best move it liked was rook to e7. So queen here, and the eval goes back down to even. So it's perfect play to draw, of course, as always. We have the knights now connected here, supported. These rooks yet to get in the game. This bishop as well, a little behind development. So this is quite the match we've got here. And looks like Josiah is down on time by 2 minutes. Josiah is thinking a lot here. I'm currently trying to fix something. So, but yeah, 5 minutes to a minute and a half. Josiah, he's the favorite. He's the higher seed. He's the higher title. He's the higher rated. He's got white. He does not look very confident right now in his position. Knight to e5. Strong move. Strong move. Attacking both rook and bishop. So any rook move, there's knight takes unless we give a double check, but doesn't seem like there's anything there. They draw. They draw immediately. That's crazy. So rook sack, queen check, and there's your draw, folks. So yeah, Josiah spent all of his time looking for something. I think once he saw the rook sack for the draw, he knew that he at least had that in his back pocket. But that means in game two, winner takes all. So if they draw, they go to tiebreak. But it's all going to come down to this second game. All right, game 2 now underway. And if they draw, they go to tie breaks. Winner takes all. So let's see. Now, when I say winner takes all, it just means that they get to play against Grigori Oparin. So the loser gets to play against Maxim Yaskolko in the second elimination match. This is a double elim bracket, so no matter what happens in this game, there will be more matches left for these players. At least one more left. But yeah, we've got Josiah with the black pieces playing a Sicilian against Ivan's e4. And we have a closed Sicilian here, so no d4. Bishop out to g5, immediately questioned by the pawn, so it takes a step back, and now Josiah strikes in the center. d5 has been played. And now Josiah perhaps ready to continue advancing in the center. So Ivan has to decide, do I want to take? Do I want to do nothing or pass or something else? So I would say there's a lot of options here. Taking is one of them, of course. Doing nothing as well. You could lift the queen. You can push a pawn. You can bring a rook in the center. Brent, this is a reschedule match, so no need to panic or worry. All matches are defaulted to 11 a.m. Pacific. That is 2 p.m. Eastern. So we still have another hour and a half, really, before the main playoffs start, I suppose. We had 2 matches scheduled early because Grigori Oparin from Mizzou is also playing in the St. Louis Fall Classic, which is also scheduled at 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific. So he had to play early, and the winner of this match gets to play him as well. So they might actually play that immediately after this. So we'll see. But this is the second game of this match. They drew the first one with Perpetual. Or repetition, I should say. I guess a forced perpetual. Forced repetition. I don't know. Anywho. Yeah, we saw Josiah use a ton of time in that first game. Now we see it's Knight who is spending some time here. This is definitely the longest think of the game. Spent about 2 minutes on this one to play the move e5. So closing up the center. But you know, what's really curious about this move is that this pawn is attacked twice, defended twice. Well, the question now is, can we remove a defender of that pawn with, say, the move g5 by Josiah? Good question, you might ask. g5, the bishop's got to go back, and can we or can we not take on e5? This is the second time now, the second game we see Ivan perhaps making a questionable move. In the first game, that was hanging f7. But Josiah didn't really capitalize on that. He played the strong move, rook takes f7, but Ivan was able to get enough counter chances on Josiah's king. Josiah now, after the move e5, does not want to go for g5. What the plan there was, I could not tell you. But now we see Ivan has played g4. So maybe they were concerned about g5. And now the point of g4 is that white is now able to move the bishop back and maintain the defense over e5. So I'm thinking maybe queen c7. That's another idea. So that's kind of interesting. All right, so what have we here? All right, g4 and only now g5, but then yes, bishop to g3, so maintaining defense. However, this g5 push, not only attacking the bishop, but it clears the g6 square for the knight, adding yet another attacker over e5. Rook e1 has been played. And now, Josiah expands on the queen side, b5, trying to perhaps play b4, dislodging this knight. And if the knight goes to e2, then the rook is blocked, and maybe black can then take on e5. So b4, and the knight's going to have to essentially choose between b1 or a4. At least I think so. Maybe we see knight b1 to reroute to d2, and that's okay. Maybe the knight on a4 is attacking the pawn on c5. But okay, yeah, not really a good way to stop b4 from being played. So preemptively, Ivan brings the knight back, and I'm assuming is going to go to d2. But yeah, I definitely like black here. This decision over e5 has really caused white to really sort of be tied down, right? Like all these pieces are pointing at your own pawn, whereas all of black's pieces are pointing at white's pawn. Black also has this really strong pawn structure here. So yeah, not sure on this whole e5 decision. Maybe it's blocking out this bishop, but white's pieces don't look too great, and knight b1 is definitely one example of that. Meanwhile, black has more space and more activity with their pieces. Just got to bring these two pieces into the game, and I think queen c7 is a very natural move here, just adding yet another attacker over the pawn. Has Aiden's opponent officially withdrawn? I wouldn't say officially. They just messaged me. So, yeah, I would have Aiden join the Discord. So, let's see. Maybe they just join. Yeah, Shamus. Anyways, f6. f6 from Josiah. Knight to b1, and now f6. f6, actually one of the top recommended moves here. Just moving the f-pawn in general really likes this, opening up the rook, I suppose. But yeah, peculiar. I personally would have gone queen c7. I don't know if that actually does threaten to win the pawn, because I know you don't want to line up yourself with pins and stuff like that against your own queen. But, I mean, there's like knight takes with check or something. There's also bishop takes, so you could just trade off bishops, maybe. Maybe not. Nonetheless, Josiah is playing with a little bit more confidence this game. I think with the black pieces, it's been peculiar. Most of the time, you have more confidence with white. You have a more time advantage with white. But Josiah has complicated the position enough after this d5 push, really. That's when Ivan started to go deep into the think tank. So e5 was a response, and now this allows for f6 here, which ultimately is going to open the f file whenever Josiah decides. Now, how much does that actually help Josiah's position? I'm not sure. But Josiah is continuing to create space for his pieces, which creates activity. White, meanwhile, is definitely feeling cramped and underdeveloped. So maybe in the long run, this is going to help Josiah positionally unlock a tactic down the road. It's also just going to make Ivan's life a little bit more difficult, right? They're going to have to be more careful with how they proceed in this position. Another thing about f6, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's not just to open the f file. Notice that after the knight moves back to b1, this actually kind of clears up this diagonal a little bit. This pawn might be a little juicy target at the end of this diagonal, maybe with the prize of the rook at the end. So, yeah, I think we take on e5. But, you know, Ivan is trying to stir up some counterplay with the move h4. And unfortunately, though, it just seems like Ivan's given up a pawn here, right? Not just any pawn, a key pawn, a center pawn, a strong pawn, and the knight finally reroutes to d2. Is it too little too late? I don't know. But the threat definitely was to play for e4. I wonder if he could have played that earlier. Anyways, knight goes into f4. That, my friends, is called an outpost. That's a beautiful outpost. Any knight would love to call this a home, and this knight is making itself cozy right now, supported by both pawns, supported by a rook, and no e or g pawn to push this knight out. That's a textbook outpost. Is knight 8700 gonna have to get rid of this knight? And if so, are you willing to give up the bishop for it and allow something else to take its place? Yeah, it's looking good for Josiah. Not only up a pawn, but up over 3 minutes on the clock. Mind you, winner moves on to play against Grigory Oparin, and loser plays against Maxime. Bishop steps back. So Ivan's deciding to play with the knight on f4 for now. Doesn't want the knight to take the bishop on g2. That is a key defender of the king, right? Covering the light squares. That is the original Fianchetto bishop. However, bishop doesn't look too hot on h1, I will say. Also, black's light square bishop is not doing much. Neither is this rook. But Josiah doubling on the f-file, bringing the queen into the party. And meanwhile, Ivan saying, you know what? I'm going to play over here. I'm going to threaten to take this pawn. And if you take me, you're going to help me out. Activate one of my pieces. But how big a deal is this really? And plus, Josiah doesn't have to take. Josiah just has to not allow pawn takes b5 because that's kind of annoying. Developing the bishop, honestly, seems good enough. But also pushing. Wow. Josiah decides to take. Okay. Takes here. Kind of a peculiar move, but he's saying, you know, I don't care if your rook's on a4. It doesn't seem like that good of a piece to me. I personally think that giving any activity there or counterplay is just unnecessary. But Josiah is definitely a much better player than I am. So, although I will say, fun fact, I did beat Josiah in a 15+10 game on a collegiate tournament. Gosh, when was that? That might have been 2020. But yeah, we started something called the California Intercollegiate Chess League, and that I want to say was maybe the third year that they did it. It was online on chess.com, and they allowed alumni like me to play. But okay, anyways, that was before Josiah was an IM. I think he was only an FM. But yeah, it was a 15+10 rapid game. So, you know, we have a history of Josiah's perhaps mistakes. I think I played in Italian. Anywho, Ivan doesn't even take the pawn on a4. Ivan goes knight back to f1. Where's the knight going though? I don't really know. So Josiah's like, you know what? That's fine. I don't really care about the a pawn. I'm gonna just keep playing where it matters, where your king is, right? Knight into the center, d4, saying, let me take that knight on f3 because I know that that knight's defending some key squares. So yeah, right now the knight's defended sufficiently, it seems, defended by queen and bishop, but with the queen and rook lined up on the f-file for Josiah, Maybe we don't want pieces to be hanging out here, allowing for certain discoveries from the knight. So Ivan now under a minute. Josiah still has over 5 minutes. So that's pretty crazy. All right, I missed some key moves. What's going on here? This is looking good for Josiah. So knight in, knight takes on e5. Knight check, king up, knight takes. That's hitting the queen. Queen steps up. Oh boy, queen check, and that's it. Game is over. So yeah, that's apparently a mate in 3. Bishop h4, queen takes h4, king to g2, queen to h3 check. King to g1 and queen takes h1 is checkmate. So yeah, really solid game there from Josiah. He takes down a colleague, I guess, a friend maybe, Ivan from UC Santa Barbara. So Josiah will move on to play his teammate at Mizzou, Grigory Oparin. That match should be starting soon, actually. And Ivan's going to have to play against Maxim Yaskoko, who I believe they will want to play at 12:30 Pacific. So let me try to get that in. I'm gonna take a quick break, but yeah, let's wait and see. I think we might see Josiah versus Grigory coming up next. So when we figure that out and get that set up, I will be back. But until then, thank you guys for watching. We just saw Josiah from Mizzou beats Ivan from UC Santa Barbara. 2 title players going up against each other. Winner's going to play against Grigory Oparin, so that's a big one coming up next. And Maxime from Yale is going to play against Ivan from UC Santa Barbara. That's also getting rescheduled. So thank you guys for being here. I will take a quick break. We'll be right back. welcome back. We've got the third match of the playoffs underway. We've got the winners from the first round, GM Grigory Oparin against IM Josiah Sterman, both of which are from University of Missouri at Columbia. So this is a teammate matchup here, I want to say. So yeah, Grigory's got the white pieces. He's the higher seed. He's the number 2 overall. He's going against Josiah, his teammate, originally from Berkeley, now a grad student at Mizzou. And let's see how this game started. So Grigory starting with knight f3 and then g3. Josiah with knight f6 and b5. B4, very peculiar opening from Josiah. This is not something that I've seen. And then Grigory responds with a3, knight takes a3. So yeah, kind of an open file for Grigory's rook. We have both sides, I guess, developing their bishop on the long diagonal. Kind of awkward without a pawn on b6 here. Kind of missing the hat of the pawn structure, if I can call it that. I don't know, but Grigory has castled kingside, and now c5, d3, just keeping these pawns covering the center. Kind of a passive center for white, allowing black perhaps to take if they wish. Bishop developed, getting ready to castle, and now Grigory claims the center for himself with e4. Josiah falling with d6. And a quick knight to d7. Black delaying castling for a move, but pretty safe king in the center for now. Just both players being solid. Partho, this is a rescheduled match, so you're good. You still have an hour, so don't worry. These players are playing early because Grigory Oparin actually is playing in the St. Louis Fall Classic in 1 hour. So he's going to try to get this match underway. But yeah, he is in St. Louis right now. The Fall Classic is going to be streamed by the St. Louis Chess Club. But also, they're getting some coverage from Jeffrey Zhang and Jules, who is one of our ambassadors from Claremont. She is currently in Toronto watching the CGC. So exciting times for chess, as well as for college chess. Hello, Iyumi Kai. Good to see you. But yeah, Partho, no need to panic. Don't worry, you guys. We have this match played early. All the other matches are going to start at the usual time, 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Central. And just to say it, I guess, noon Mountain Time to cover pretty much all the time zones that matter. How do I get a link to our game? So you will go to the NACE platform. You will need to link your NACE account to your chess.com account. So you go there, and it's actually posted in Discord. So I recommend that you check that out. Let me go to NACE Help. NACE Help will tell you. So yeah, I also put it in the latest announcement. The latest announcement will also have that linked to it. You linked your account and everything. Great. So yeah, if you're there, it should tell you where your match is. And then you check in. It'll tell you your opponent. And it'll provide a game link for you. So all you do is click on that game link, and it will take you to chess.com to play your opponent. And then when you play your game, you record your results. It'll give you another game link as well as record your results, which is important because then that will tell you who wins. And ultimately, that will determine who you play next. So you're playing 2 rounds today. Each round is 1 match against 1 opponent. Each match is 2 games. So you will at least play 4 games today, all of which are 10 plus 2. Anyways. Yeah, this is the first game of their match here. Grigori actually lost some rating, I think, because he drew against Maxime. But he won the match, which is really all that matters. Yeah, he's over 100 rating points above Josiah. Is this elimination? It's double elimination. So you need to lose both rounds in order to be eliminated. So both these players won their first round, but one of them is going to lose after this match, but they will have another match to play next weekend. So they've guaranteed themselves to at least play another week. However, their opponents that they beat in the first round, Ivan and Maxime, they're going to be playing later today. And the loser of that match is eliminated because they've already lost their first match. So everyone gets 2 matches at least. If you win a match, you get to play another one. So yeah, anyways, Grigori looks to be trading queens here. Josiah has the queens pinned. So Josiah saying, you know, I'm going to leave my queen on d5. I'm not going to take yours and invite your king into the game. Instead, I'm going to leave my queen on d5 and say, you should take my queen, and then you're going to reconnect my pawns. But yeah, this rook to a6 move, this blocks the a pawn, and in my opinion, it threatens rook to a4. And there you have it. So the rooks are doubled, attacking a7. Black can defend this with rook to c7. Lose, what does that mean? Brody, I can only explain that to losers, which you are not. You are a winner. So you wouldn't understand this concept of not winning. That's what losing is. It's not winning. It's worse than not winning. Like, I know not winning seems crazy, but it's even worse than that. So but yeah, actually, Brody, are you even playing in this tournament? That to me is also not winning. It's not losing, but it's definitely not winning. So anyways, man, I love answering questions and streaming at the same time. This happens every time. But I have some fantastic news, ladies and gentlemen. In 1 hour from now, I will be joined by an almighty streamer. I'll be joined by another commentator, so I will have some reinforcements, some backup. Who it is? Well, he's been around since last season. He's done a lot of commentary with me in the past, so some of you might already know him or have seen him before. But yeah, I'll introduce him when he gets here later. I'll leave you in suspense for now. Anyways, we have Grigori Classic over 9 minutes still to Josiah's 3.5. Time pressure is not looking too good. So we see the queen trade forced, and Grigori has left Josiah stranded with some isolated weak pawns on a5 and c5. White has only 2 pawn islands, 2 pawn chains of 3 each. Josiah has 3 pawn islands. He's got 4 on the king side, and he's got 2 isolated over here. So bishop to d4, trying to hunker this pawn down. This pawn's hit twice. Can we grab it? It looks like we can, honestly. I would take it. Why not? Why wouldn't you take it? Ain't nothing wrong with that. Free pawn, right? See a free pawn, take a free pawn. Pawn grabber society, led by Yasser Sarawan. All right, we do see the trade on a5. the rook now attacking the bishop, but now b4 looking to trade. So if pawn takes, there's bishop takes, there's also rook takes. I think what we would see, what I would expect from Grigori is if pawn takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes. That's what I think would happen if Josiah chooses to take on c5. If Josiah doesn't take on c5, then this is what I expect to happen. Pawn takes, bishop takes. And I think that would be pretty bad because then you have two pieces hanging. But then you have this. And if this. So these are the two most likely options, perhaps. Or, no, I don't know. Anyways, there's also that coming, perhaps, at some point. But maybe you don't want to just invite the king up for no reason. What else is going on? Maybe this is a threat, actually. Yeah, that's a threat. I would say that's a threat. So, yeah. Yeah, b4 is a nice move. And Josiah is under 2 minutes now. Time is getting tough. There's been a lot of time spent here from Josiah in the think tank. He's down a pawn. Maybe going to be down another pawn. Or just going to be forced into a rook and pawn endgame where you're down a pawn. Not a lot of great options, unfortunately. Obviously drawn. Brody would never lose such a game. But okay, Josiah's he's thought about this position for a lot, and he decided to play on e5. So e5, saying this bishop needs a little extra support because you can't really depend on the c-pawn. So e5 is the move that's been played, which makes a lot of sense. And now Grigori has the luxury to think a little bit themselves. So let's see what Grigori decides on. He's just under 7 minutes. Computer says the best move is this one, which makes a lot of sense. I thought that this was the threat. So that's what I expect. That is what I expect from Grigori. Grigori obviously used a lot of Josiah's time to think on his own, I would expect. But now that it's his turn, he's using some additional time to think after Josiah's last move, e5. And bishop e6 just looks really smart. Okay, rook a2. That is a good point. So rook a2, but then there's bishop takes. This match was rescheduled, Dr. Sauce. Yes, indeed. The regular matches will start in about an hour, or in about 53 minutes, if you want to be precise. So, yes, this match was rescheduled for Division 1 purposes. Grigori here, with the white pieces, is actually playing the St. Louis Fall Classic, which is starting at our default match time, 11 a.m. Pacific. So he is not able to play at that time. This is actually his second match of the day. He played his first one at 7:30 a.m. Pacific. So, yeah. Anyways, what do we have here? Rook to c6, and I think this is to do with the c2 pawn. So Grigori doesn't want that to happen, and he comes back. They just simply trade pawns. Yeah, bishop here, rook here, and I guess Grigori didn't like how that looked. So, but yeah, both players now are playing fast. Josiah's at a minute now. King steps up. And yeah, this is only game one. Josiah really trying to hold this to a draw. He's down a pawn. H5, just locking the G pawn of Josiah's. I like this move a lot positionally and structurally. It locks down those two G and H pawns. It also keeps them on dark squares. And on top of that, puts a white pawn on a light square. And why is that good? Well, you'll see both of them have dark square bishops. And so locking pawns on dark squares is actually a weakness because that's going to be a target for that bishop. And putting pawns on light squares is a strength because the bishop will just never be able to attack those pawns. However, Grigori's just trying to trade the bishop off, saying, listen, I got the better pawn structure. I'm up a pawn. Let's get this bishop off and play a rook and pawn endgame where I can never lose and I'm the favorite to win. You're also down 20 seconds, so that's not good. Rook to g6 looks pretty obvious to me. But that does drop the c pawn, so who knows. But yeah, Josiah's in a tough spot. Either you give up the bishop, you trade, and you go into a worse rook and pawn endgame, or you leave the bishop on, and you're still in a worse endgame, and might be even more worse. So Josiah's choosing between two evils, essentially. Grigori says, I see I could play rook g6 and go after your g pawn, but that pawn's a goner anyways. It's such a weak pawn. It's over there doing nothing. I don't want to give you any counterplay with rook c2. So I'm going to defend c2. I'm going to force you to either capture my bishop or go to a terrible square, which that bishop on a1 doesn't look any better than where it was earlier. But yeah, let's see how Grigori closes this one off with Josiah's time pressure. So king up to e4, and yeah, this is not looking good for Josiah. Now down to 5 seconds, and Grigori is at 4.5 minutes. So yeah, still up a pawn, still up on time, and a ton of time here. You could play bishop to c7 check. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing that comes to mind is bishop c5 check, followed by bishop to f8. That looks pretty good too. Yeah, I think either way, the king has to go to e6. But bishop c7 just looks so concrete, right? You attack the king with check, and then you're attacking e5 with the bishop. You're already attacking with the king. You can go bishop c7 check, king to e6, and then rook to c5. Whoa. d4. This forces the bishops off. This is a check. Rook back to c4 and saying, how are you going to defend f4? You're not. Josiah flags. So Grigori takes game one with the white pieces. Pretty solid game. Now they switch sides and they play game two. So it's a best of two here. Grigori now just needs a draw to win the match. Josiah needs a win to force overtime. All right, game 2. What do we have here? E4, E5, an Italian, Gioco Piano. This is my favorite opening. And we see A4, A5, knight to D2. Rook E1, that clears the F1 square. However, it weakens F2. So now the rook is on E2, defending F2 after this knight to G4 move. Kind of an awkward setup, but rook and queen on this diagonal can't really be taken advantage of because the knight on G4 is blocking the bishop on G4. This opening is so professional. Yeah, they know what they're doing. They've been here before. Knight now to F1, F5 after the king getting off this diagonal. Literally not a move to waste here. Both sides playing effortlessly here. So F5, E takes, bishop takes, and yeah, I don't know how much is this theory, or are they just playing instinctually at this point? I think bishop to E or knight E3 just makes sense, perhaps. Maybe take with the pawn, maybe take with the bishop. Maybe white is thinking about E4 as something to deal with. Okay, bishop to G5. That's a tempo on the queen. And Grigory has to either block with the knight or block with the other knight or find a new place for the queen. Probably you move the queen, right? You want to lift, you want to connect the rooks. This makes a lot of sense. So I'm expecting queen D7. Grigory has already used more time in this game than he did in the entirety of the last game. It's kind of a joke. But yeah, Grigory, he's so good on the clock with the white pieces. It's crazy. Yeah, he's still over 9 minutes. Pretty close to Josiah, though. Josiah went into a deep think tank in the last game towards the end. But still pretty early on in this game, only 12 moves deep. So we do see queen to D7. And now Josiah, with the white pieces, has to figure out what is the plan here. Well, H3 looks like a move, but then, of course, the knight probably goes back to F6. No big deal. Maybe bishop to D5. Like, I feel like that makes sense, right? Blocking this pawn. But maybe not. Who knows? Maybe we... I'm drawing... This is like, those protests against those famous art pieces. Like Van Gogh's art is like getting vandalized or something by protesters. This right here, this board game in front of me, this is a piece of art, and I'm just vandalizing it with my arrows. So C3 has been played. And yeah, that's just taking over control of some of these key dark squares, right? That boxes out the knight, takes away squares from the bishop. Maybe we're threatening some pawn pushes at some point. Probably not B4 because black has a really strong grip over that square. But D4 maybe. D4 is one idea for sure. Okay, rook A to E8. And that's just supporting the center, centralizing the rooks. This rook is the only piece yet to move. So will we see that piece move at some point? Probably. When? Is it now? I doubt it. I'm expecting maybe a queen move. Maybe with the rook on E2, it's very natural to try to double the rooks, right? So especially after move rook to E8, I feel like the queen wants to move. But where? Queen here comes with the threat on the pawn, right? Maybe. Nope. We see the pawn push in the center, D4. So continuing with the C3 idea. And now if E takes, we've opened up the E file. The rooks are staring at each other from long distance. Do we trade rooks first? Do we take on D4 first? Now that D4 pawn is technically a loner. It's isolated. It's weak. It's not supported by its friends. That pawn, we don't know how long it'll last. But right now, it's supported by pieces. Knight and queen. Here we take, and white's going to have to take back with a bishop. So that's kind of a downgrade. Ah, we have a tactic. What is this? What is this? Somebody tell me. What am I missing? Knight takes. Yeah, what is this? I actually don't know. Oh my goodness. Look at this, folks. Knight takes followed by knight takes. Look at that. Knight takes f2, man. That's crazy deep. Oh, look. Oh, no. He took. That's what he missed, is the discovery. That's going to be a queen. I mean, I knew this pin was bad, but I just thought you moved the queen after knight takes, right? Knight takes, you move the queen. Like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough out here against Grigori. GM making an IM look like a NM. And maybe an NM stands for non-master. I don't know. But yeah, this is a really strong tactic from Grigori, and I really think it caught Josiah off guard. I mean, he's stun locked here. No move. Just soaking in the position. Trying to find any sort of reason for some counterplay. I mean, you took on f2. That's a piece. You'll get a bishop out of it, right? I mean, but 2 pieces for the queen, probably not enough. I don't know. I would probably go to e1, even though that just looks pretty bad. But g1, you're still in the pin, so that's not good. But okay, Josiah opts for g3. The king now a little more centralized. Of course, rook takes back to defend the knight. But yeah, I mean, you can't play like this. Knight f2 is such a sharp line, and Grigori saw this. d4 ultimately allowed for this to occur. So d4 was not the move here. But in all fairness to Josiah, I mean, that is hard to see, man. It looks like you're supporting this. Rook takes, bishop takes, and yeah, just you got the rook, the knight, and the bishop all pointing at f2. Trade, knight takes, king takes, there goes your queen. And yeah, now it's just a simple matter of cleanup work here for Grigori. Starting with the queen attacking the knight for the second time. Yeah, Christian sees it. So yeah, Grigori looks like he's gonna win 2 for 2 today. Flawless going into next week's match. So yeah, Josiah, he's gonna try to put up a defense here, try to find something. The problem is that he's definitely losing, and a draw would not save him either. So he needs a win to tie it, but probably not gonna happen. But yeah, strong tactic from Grigori, and Josiah at least will still be guaranteed a match next week, as this is double elimination, and this would only be his first elimination. Josiah grabs a pawn on b7, and you never know. We might see a mouse slip if Grigori wants to sack an exchange or something. We could see a back rank mate. There's always hope. You know, also, Grigori's internet could go out. I know he's not where he's normally at. He's in St. Louis. So how's that St. Louis internet holding up? Must be somewhat good, because I see Christians in the chat watching the stream. So yeah, I don't know what else Josiah can do here. Of course, I am a personal fan of not resigning, but this is a tough match for sure. Cut the power, Brody. We might have a backup power. Who knows? Um, I'm assuming Grigri's on like hotel Wi-Fi. I could be wrong. He could be playing from the St. Louis Chess Club. That would be really nice if they like set something up for him. Uh, I know they have a studio. Maybe they could have streamed from there. Who knows? But anyways, Grigri has played h6, so the hopes of back rank mate are no more. And after bishop here, the queen comes in with check and a nice little fork there to finish it off. So well done from Grigori. Josiah resigns, and best of luck to both these players next week as they will move on to play in the third round. But also best of luck to Grigori, who won both his matches today and has a really big match coming up later today in the St. Louis Fall Classic. So you guys can check that game out as it's going to be streamed. I have about 30 minutes until the next round starts. So Grigori, he's won with some time to spare, which is great. He's got some time to prepare for his next round. Good luck as well to Count Live, coach for Mizzou, and for Grigori, as well as Josiah. So lots of Mizzou representation. Good luck to you guys in the Fall Classic. I know you'll do great. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to just go on a quick break. It'll be about 30 minutes until the next round start. For most people, it's going to be round 1 of the playoffs, and we will have essentially 2 rounds left to watch. So lots of exciting matchups. We're definitely going to be watching Rui Fang's game. That is a top seed, number 1 in the tournament from UT Austin, another Grandmaster match. So yeah, stick around for that. Thank you all again, and I will see you all in about 30 minutes. See you then.